There's an update on the pond. I haven't shown it in a while. It's gone nuts. Everything is growing. Look at that Madagascar lace like growing out of the tank. Um, all my floaters. Look how red that is. But I got rid of the waterfall. That thing was just too loud. It was nice, but it was too loud. I can even hear myself down here. I got a couple of plants from like the garden outside and put it in here. They're doing okay. But those are freaking amazing. The Rotala is so long in the tank. I guess that's broken off. Like it's growing. It's probably about 6 feet from the bottom of the tank or the pond. And what I do is I have a bunch of loose, like Val or Dwarf Sag. I just throw it in here, and it propagates. Even though it's floating, it propagates with roots. Look how it looks right there. Even though it's not in the substrate, it's still propagating while it's floating around. So whenever I need to make like a new tank, I just come in here and just pull it out. Even got some Java fern in here, propagating, just floating around. So this is like my extra whatever. Like if I have a bunch of plants that I don't have anything to do with, I just throw it in here, and it does well. It's so weird. Weird is not the right word, but it's freaking amazing. And I've got like this lily here growing, and I have all my call shrimp in here. Can't really see them because it's not a glass tank, but there's like tons of shrimp inside. And I got rid of the CO2 also, but see the bottom. Look at the bottom of this thing. It's freaking amazing. No fish though. People come by, they're like, why don't you put some fish in there? Nah. I'm not a fish person. I don't really care for fish. But look at all this Rotala. Look at how thick that is. But yeah, this pond was a pretty good idea. Look at that from over. I have a heater in there because even though in the summertime down here in the basement it's about 65, it actually got to about like 50. So probably a little less than that. So I had to plug a heater in. Once it warms up outside, I'll turn the heater off. But all this extra growth, everything is just doing so well in here. Of course, there's bunch of you could duckweed. Ugh, I hate duckweed. Once you get that stuff, you just cannot get rid of it, man. It's like a friggin' disease. I need to get some underwater footage so I can see the shrimp down there, but every now and then I'll come by and just try to record it, but it's kind of hard to see. But pretty much the room has completely changed. My Val or Dwarf Sag tank, that's a mess. Look at it, it's just absolute mess. I'll work on that at some other point. But then I recreated this tank. This is where I put my Taiwan bees and some crystal reds. It's a 40 breeder. They're starting to breed in there now. I see a couple of buried. Basically, I just use a very thin substrate of the fluvial stratum, and I put some plants in there, and I did a lot of filtration. Like I wanted to over filter this because I think that's the problem I had with my previous tanks is I didn't have enough filtration. So I have I hang on the back a sponge, and I had a homemade. Basically, I have all this media in this. It was I think it was a Platanos bucket or whatever, but I put a ton of media in there, a ton of bacteria, and I have it pumping out one through here. I have to I pump in through there and pump through the other side. I have to clean the filtration. You can see the bubbles coming out. So there's tons of filtration in here, and I do weekly water changes, 10%. So I'm gonna keep the water as clean as I can, and see how well they do. They did pretty well in the 10-gallon, but I wanted my Pinto. I wanted to see how they do in a bigger environment. And oh man, this freaking Java moss is like taking control of this tank. I'm not gonna worry about it. That's another thing. Duckweed and Java moss, can't stand it. A lot of people try to get Java moss, but I hate it, man. It's like taking over the tank already. Anyhow, so basically these are my 3 primary tanks right now. This, the pond, and over here. Don't worry about all these. Those are all experiments. And this is my breeding tank. The crystal reds, snowballs, crystal blacks. I got rid of all those smaller tanks. I'm using a 20 long. Again, it gets cold in here, but I have a really good heater, titanium. Keep the temperature pretty. It only fluctuates about 0.2 degrees. I know people say don't use heaters on Neo or Caridina shrimp, but this is a pretty good heater, and it hardly ever fluctuates. It's probably better than real life. But I got a couple of burieds in there, but the weird thing is once the cold weather got in, the breathing like really stopped on all of my shrimp. I heard that happens a lot to the Canadian breeders because the biometric pressure with the cold weather like changes, but in the summertime, but man, the breeding like really slowed down. Like I hardly have any, like that's probably the youngest shrimp in the tank right now, and it's like a teenager or whatever, like a mid. But anyway, we'll see how the rest of the stuff works out. I'm gonna do a lot more changes, but this is just a quick update.